Mr. Tim, we need to talk about something.
Look, Mr. Conjunctivitis, we talked about that pay raise. You get paid in the blood and souls of the innocent.
No, it's not that. Just have you looked at your subscriber count recently?
No.
I just thought that you would want to know that you reached 50,000 subscribers.
Oh.
You're taking this surprisingly calmly.
You know me, Sauron. I'm not prone to anxious bouts of stress at all. So much responsibility.
What do you think you will do to celebrate?
Well, I can't talk about that now. This is meant to be a Lord of the Rings video, but I am going to do a Q&A and live stream party with me and some friends where we can talk about all of the nerdy stuff that you guys want, and I will answer any questions. More details down in the description below. Hey Sub-Furies! Though not in Jackson's movies, one of the most curious scenes of the Fellowship of the Ring is when Merry, Pippin, Sam, and Frodo are ambushed and captured by some of the most mysterious creatures in all of Middle-earth, Barrow-wights. Tolkien does describe them in the Fellowship of the Ring as tall, dark figures like a shadow against the stars. It leaned over him. He thought there were two eyes, very cold, though lit with a pale light that seemed to come from some remote distance. They're creepy, supernatural entities. But what on earth were they, and what did they want to the hobbits? Because what they did was pretty weird. Time for me to put on my tinfoil Tolkienite hat and rant about the deep lore. To understand what the Barrow-wights are, there are a few clues in where they came from. So, long before the War of the Ring, the Witch King, Sauron's greatest lieutenant, was the Lord of Angmar. He waged war against both elves and men and tried to drive them out of this region of Arnor. Now, the Witch King controlled all manner of dark creatures, and it did appear that the Barrow-wights were among them. In the year 1636 of the Third Age, a great plague swept through the region and wiped out nearly all of the men in the kingdom of Cardolan. Tolkien wrote, "It was at this time that an end came to the Dunedain of Cardolan, and the evil spirits out of Angmar and Ruadar entered into the deserted mounds and dwelt there." These evil spirits mentioned in this passage were the Barrow-wights, and in Unfinished Tales, it's written that the Witch King's wars with the Dunedain and Cardolan, now the Barrow-downs, whose evil wights had been sent there by himself. One theory about what the Barrow-wights might be is that they are the lost spirits of fallen elves. So in Tolkien's world, when an elf dies, their soul is summoned to the halls of Mandos, and there they have the opportunity to be reborn into a new body. But elven spirits will sometimes resist this summons because they know that they will be judged and they've done bad things, or a number of other reasons that they don't want to leave Middle-earth. Now, Tolkien refers to these elven spirits as the houseless because they don't have any physical bodies to house their souls, and it's what happens to these elven spirits that concerns us. In the book Morgoth's Ring, Tolkien writes about the houseless and saying, "Some say that the houseless desire bodies, though they are not willing to seek them lawfully by submission to the judgment of Mandos. The wicked among them will take bodies, if they can, unlawfully." What Tolkien means here is that these elven spirits who refuse to go to Mandos will instead try and find and take others' bodies in Middle-earth.
But something else happened in the Barrow-downs, didn't it?
Good point, original Dumbledore with a cooler hat. There is some good evidence to suggest that the Barrow-wights are in fact these houseless spirits. In the chapter that we meet the Barrow-wight, it captures Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. And Frodo wakes up inside a barrow, like a tomb, with the others lying asleep next to it. But the really weird thing about this scene is that Frodo sees that the Barrow-wight had dressed them up in white clothing and jewelry, and there was a sword lying across all of their necks. Frodo sees the hand of the wight reaching around the corner for the hilt of the sword, and we don't know exactly what the wight was going to do, but Frodo seizes up a knife and takes a leaf right out of the George Lucas handbook and cuts off its hand. Now, I need to give credit to the Tumblr user Ask Middle-earth for this point. The white clothes, the jewelry, the lying in certain positions, it all sounds incredibly ritualistic, don't you think? Frodo even hears the Barrow-wights singing some sort of incantation or enchantment over the hobbits. Now, while it's never made clear exactly what the Barrow-wight wanted, this may well be how the houseless take over another's body with some kind of ritual. Tolkien wrote that the houseless will seek to eject the soul from its body, and in the contest for mastery, the body may be gravely injured, even if it not be wrested from the rightful habitant. The Barrow-wight may well have been trying to use these new bodies of the hobbits for its own. More than that though, Tolkien indicated that some of the houseless were enslaved by the Dark Lord to do his work still, though he himself is gone. Such practices are of Morgoth, and the necromancers are the host of Sauron his servant. Sauron taught his followers how to do this as well. This would explain why the Witch King could control elven spirits and send them to Cardolan. They were enslaved by Morgoth and Sauron, wanting to find new bodies in Middle-earth rather than face the judgment of Mandos. And all of the white clothes and jewelry and sword positions may well be part of the ritual needed to do so. The main issue with this theory is that, well, if they are the houseless, then they already have a body. Tolkien described the Barrow-wights having eyes, a figure, a hand, and so on. It's not clear what they would have gained by getting the hobbits' bodies. Like maybe flawless skin? Do the houseless just have a passion for chubby cheeks and hairy feet? Just the pinnacle of Middle-earth beauty. Either way, this theory is in no way disproven by that, but maybe they need new bodies every so often. A second theory is far less complex than that of the houseless elven spirits. That the Barrow-wights are simply the corrupted spirits of men who were captured and tortured during the war with the Witch King of Angmar. Mary does describe the whole ordeal with the Barrow-wight in these words. The men of Carn-dûm came on us at night, and we were worsted. Now it is worth noting that Tolkien was always very specific when he was talking about groups of people in Middle-earth. If he says men of Carn-dûm, especially with a capital M, it may well mean human beings rather than elves. It's also interesting that when Frodo hears the incantation that the Barrow-wight is casting over the hobbits, it's in Westron, a language of men and hobbits, not so much elves. Now, some elves did speak Westron, but it's still a little odd to think that an elvish spirit controlled by the Witch King would speak in a language that they may well not have known, or probably wouldn't really speak in unless they needed to. But it's also possible that Mary only described them as men because he didn't really know what they were. After all, the hobbits had only really heard of Barrow-wights in creepy old tales. The final theory is perhaps the least interesting, that they were the maiar, not elves or dwarves or men, but tainted spirits that were controlled by Morgoth and then Sauron and then the Witch King. The maiar were corrupted maiar, sort of like the Balrogs. Some of the great spiders like Ungoliant, the ancestor of Shelob, were maiar, corrupted angels of sorts. We know that the spiders, maiar, really detested light, and in the incantation that we can read the Barrow-wight saying, it does talk about till the sun fails and the moon is dead, and the black wind and the stars shall die. But this is a pretty loose theory in my opinion. One major problem with it is that it's incredibly unlikely that the Witch King would be able to control maiar, even if they were incredibly weak. Maiar were kind of Sauron and Morgoth's thing, and Tolkien did kind of give us the impression that many of the maiar died off in the War of Wrath anyway. So what are the Barrow-wights? It's still a mystery, but I think the most likely theory is that they are the houseless, wandering spirits of elves who refused to go to the halls of Mandos and were enslaved by Morgoth and Sauron and then the Witch King. Let me know down below, and feel free to leave me any other Lord of the Rings topics that you would like me to talk about. In the meantime, I'd love for you to come follow me on my second channel, TwotheFuture. It's a more vloggy channel. I'll leave a link to that down below. Also follow me on Twitter, Wattpad, Facebook, email me stuff or send me stuff you've made at the address and links in the description below. Stay nerdy, Subfuries, and I'll see you in the future.